Hi, I'm Marlene, and today on Gardening the Organic Way, we're going to talk about how to make compost and how to turn it on Gardening the Organic Way. We have here, I would say, about 2 feet of dry material. This is composed of some grass from the fall, some leaves, in general, just spring cleanup type of material around the garden. The main thing here is that it's very important to make sure it gets water, because you need water and moisture in order to get things cooking. So we're gonna go ahead and put lots of it. Because it's very dry, I wanna make sure that I add enough of this water. Once the compost has begun to cook and it has its own natural moisture, you won't have to do that much water. Now I'm going to add a little bit of soil mixed with compost. So this will serve as a way to inoculate the actual compost and get it going. By inoculation, what I mean is it's going to bring in some of that bacteria that's really essential to get things cooking in a little bit faster way than if I wait for the natural process to come out from the soil. And I'm going to add just enough so that I cover it a little bit, not too much, but sufficiently so that it's spread out throughout the whole compost area. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and add a little bit more water, as the soil was quite dry, and also, again, trying to create that moisture that will begin to get things to cook. Now comes the fun part. I've been saving some of the vegetable scraps from the house, and there are many ways you can do this. In some ways, people can go to different places or kitchens, small kitchens like I did here, and I collected some of the vegetable scraps. And they were nice enough to turn around and save them for me. Look how colorful they are, but they're just the rinds and the peels from different vegetables, and they're very useful. You know, you've got onions, any kind of vegetable. The main thing you want to stay away from here is you do not want to have any kind of meat product or any kind of animal product. The same thing for the actual dry material. You want your grasses, you want your mixtures of leaves, you want a little bit of twigs is okay. The whole thing mixed up will eventually begin to decompose in a very rapid sense as we give it the layers. And the vegetables, which tend to be a lot wetter than the actual dry material, will also rot, but also bring in a lot of the bacteria, food for the bacteria, and then it'll get things moving. That's why I kind of lay down a little bit of the soil and then some of the vegetable scraps right on top. Okay, so now we have our second layer. We have a good layer of some dry material, the leaves, the grass, and all the little grass clippings and any kind of weeds, you know, that haven't gone to seed or anything from around the garden. Lots of vegetable scraps in partial decomposition stages. And now we're ready for another layer of some dry material. At this point, we can either add some dry leaves from the fall that we may have saved in different garbage bags and create another layer, or maybe some more grass or whatever other material we can find. We can continue to add more vegetable scraps, but sometimes that may seem a little hard to get a hold of. So it's easier to find some grass clippings, especially as the season progresses. In the summertime, you constantly have people cutting grass. The main important thing about it is that you utilize grass that has not been treated with any kind of herbicide or any kind of chemical. The moment that you introduce this, that's it. That's the end of your compost, because all that chemical will turn around and kill the different bacteria and fungi that are working for you to decompose all this material. It's very important to note that if you're using any kind of grass clippings from your neighbor's yard, that you know whether there has been any kind of herbicide or fungicide or any of the chemicals used on it, because if they have used it, then you do not want to turn around and use those garden clippings. Otherwise you'll kill all the bacteria that you're utilizing here to decompose the whole process. And you're trying to create an organic type of mixture which needs this bacteria, needs this fungi, and cannot tolerate any kind of chemical whatsoever. At this point, I'm going ahead and add some more soil with a little compost mixture on top of the vegetables, just to keep the smells a little down, and also to increase the amount of bacteria that I have in here to help in the decomposition process. It helps tremendously because if you have a strong smell, you're likely to attract animals, and we definitely want to avoid this at all costs. So it's a good idea to add it and kind of cover up the smell and hides it before you add your continuous other layers of it. At this point, I'm going to add some of last year's compost. And the reason for that is because I know that this has a lot of the mycorrhiza, fungi, and bacteria that we need for this compost to brew correctly. So by adding this, it will just help get the whole thing going. And that way you're not relying on just the soil and the different bacteria from the actual soil that we have the compost sitting on. But this is something that I know has a lot of this really good fungi that will get this thing cooking. If you don't have any compost available in the spring, what you find readily available is the little packets that they sell of worms, castings, in order for people to go fishing and they have worms. Well, you take those packets after you remove the worms, or not, and just throw them right in your compost and get them working for you immediately. This is in particularly some grasses that I cut down. And notice how, even though they're brown, they're very good because they're still grass and they'll decompose very quickly. And what I will do is I'm going to cut them a little bit to give them more surface area so that the bacteria has different ways of attacking it. So it's best if you utilize them as small as possible. Get things started. So this would be good for the vegetables. The compost needs to heat up to a minimum of about 160 degrees in the middle. Therefore, it's really important to have the proper height and the proper thickness so that it doesn't dry out and you get that proper heating system in between. It can heat up even up to about 200 easily if there's enough green material in it. We got the right height, but we want to make sure we have the proper moisture. And for the last layer, I always recommend using a little bit of soil. Just kind of keep things, covered. It also helps to prevent any dryness, and it'll start the process going that much better. Sometimes it's a good idea to put a tarp over it just to prevent it from getting too wet and consequently lowering the heating system that will take place. But if not, it's okay to leave it like that. Compost like this in 2 weeks from now will be almost half the size.